Test 3 here actually covers all of Algebra 2. So you're going to see questions from chapters 6, 7, 8, 9. So let's take a look at it quickly, some of them. Question number 1, find the greatest common factor of x cubed plus x to the 4th plus x to the 5th. So they're not saying factor, they're saying if you were to take something out of each one, what is the biggest thing we can take out of them? And the answer to that is only x to the 3rd. That's the biggest thing I can take out of every one of them. 3 x's. I can't take 4, this doesn't have it. I can't take 5 of them, this and this don't have it. If you only take x, that's not the biggest thing. We're looking for the largest thing you can take out of them. Question number 2, factor. Again, factor imply factor completely. Notice this sign is positive. That tells you both signs the same as this. Both are negative. So they have to be both negative. Oh, that's an x here. So to get a plus 3, using negative numbers only, has to be negative 3 times a negative 1. And when you add these numbers, what's the result? Isn't that a negative 4? Just what do you want? Negative 3, negative 1. Which side you put them on? Not important. Doesn't look like an X here. Three, factor 3x squared minus 8x minus 3. There is nothing in common there. There is no greatest common factor. So I have to use the trial and error method. 3x squared is 3x times 1x. That's a negative 3. Could be negative 3 times 1 or 3 times a negative 1. So let me try that. Go to 3x here. Go to x here. So it's plus 1, negative 3, or plus 3 times a minus 1. So I'm going to try the plus 1 and the minus 3. Does that do it? Well, let's test it. Does that give me the negative 8x? What's this one here? Positive x. This one, negative 9x. When you add them, that's what? Negative 8x. I kind of cheated. I tried to do this in my head, so I don't have to try it more than once. The truth is, you probably can try 4 or 5. Try put the negative 3 here and the 1 there, will not work. If you use these numbers, will not work. So, but I try to cheat here and try and get it to work on the first try. Four, factor x squared minus 2x plus 1. This sign is positive, both signs the same as this. Both negative, so it's only negative 1 times a negative 1. You don't have any options. Which you can write that x minus 1 squared. Number 5, factor x squared minus 25. You can write the 25 as 5 squared. And I can write that now x minus 5, x plus 5. Done. Solve for x. X squared plus 6x plus 8 is equal to 0. Move to one side, it is done. Factor completely. X plus 4, x plus 2, set each factor equal to 0 and solve it. X equals negative 4, x equals negative 2. Simplify. As I said, the questions come from all over. X squared minus y squared over y squared minus x squared. Well, if you factor this, that's x minus y, x plus y. This one is y minus x, y plus x. Well, y plus x and x plus y are the same. They look different, but they're really the same. So what's left is this. But those are not much different. Notice they're kind of backward. So if you want, you can still cancel them. You don't have a choice. You have to. But now because they're not the same, you have to put the minus 1. So your final answer is really a negative 1 because they are backward. Forgot track of which question. I think is 8 now. Divide x squared over y squared divided by x over y squared. Again, this is x squared over y squared. You can change it to times y squared over x. And notice top and the bottom, these two are the same. What's left is x squared over x, and can I simplify that? Sure, that's only 1x. Subtract the exponent. Solve. 1 over w minus w over 4 equals 0. My LCD here is 4 times w. So I'm going to multiply each one of them by 4 times w. So let's multiply each one by 4w over 1. Just make it a fraction. 4w over 1. 4w over 1. And you can see here that w cancels the w. 4 times 1 is 4. The 4 cancels the 4. That's w squared. And 0 times anything is 0. The 4 is 2 squared minus w squared, now equals 0. Factor that. 2 minus w. 2 plus w is equal to 0. Set each factor equal to 0 and solve it. Well, 2 minus w equals 0. 2 plus w equals 0. Let's solve it. Move the minus w there, 2 equals w. Move the plus 2 there, w equals negative 2. So two answers, 2 and minus 2. What is the square root of 121? What positive number, if you multiply it by itself if you multiply it by itself 2 times, the answer is 121. That's 11. 11 times 11 is 121. Simplify. The square root of 18x squared. Well, the 18 is what? 9 times 2 times is x squared. So I can break it down to the square root of 9, the square root of 2, the square root of x squared. What is the square root of 9? 3. What is the square root of x squared? You divide the power by 2, that's just x. And the only thing left there is the square root of 2 because we don't know what the answer to that. Combine. 8, the square root of 3, minus 5, the square root of 3, plus the square root of 3. Notice there's no number. That means there's a 1 here. Since these are the same, we just take the 8 minus the 5 plus the 1. What's 8 minus 5? Is a 3 plus 1, that's 4. And don't forget the square root of 3. That doesn't go away. Simplify. The square root of 2x to the third squared. Anytime you have a square root, when you square it, you lose the square root sign. So you end up with what's under the square root. Simple as that. If you have a square root and you square it, you lose the square root sign. Solve for y. The square root of y plus 5 equals 9. And again, to get rid of the square root, we square both sides. So let's square this side and square that side. If you do that, you will have y plus 5. I just finished saying when you square a square root, you lose it. And 9 squared is 81. Take the 5 to this side, and y equals 76. 81 minus the 5, that's a 76. Solve for x. X squared minus 3x equals 0. Factor an x out. What's left? X minus 3 equals to 0. Set each factor equal to 0 and solve it. This is done here. Take this one, set it equal to 0 and solve it. X equals 3. Solve for y. The square root of y minus 1 equals y minus 3. Notice you have a square root. And to get rid of that, you got to square both sides. So when you square a square root, it is gone. When you square this, you have to use the FOIL method. Y minus 3 times y minus 3, which is y squared minus 6y plus 9. Now let's try to solve it. That's a quadratic equation. Move everything to one side. Bring the minus 1 to this side, it becomes a plus 1. Bring the plus y to this side, becomes a minus y. So you have 0 equals y squared minus 7y plus 10. Can you factor that? Isn't that y minus 5, y minus 2? Set each one equals to 0 and solve it. Y equals what? 5. Y equals 2. We have to be careful when you have a square root. Let's go back to the original problem. The original problem was this. Let's check the answer. Let's try the y equals to 5. Plug it in. Is the square root 5 minus 1, which is 4, does that equal to 5 minus 3? Because y is 5. What is the square root of 4? 2. What is 5 minus 3? 2. Yes, they are equal. So that's good. The 5 is good. Let's check the 2. When y is 2, plug it in. Is the square root 2 minus 1, which is 1, does that equal to 2 minus 3? This is 1. This is what? Negative 1. Are they equal to each other? No. So this is not a good answer. Can't use it. So that is the only answer you can use. The y equals to 5. What was the number? I forgot. 16. How about 17? Solve 3x squared minus 2x plus 9 equals to 0. And if I'm given a choice, I'm probably going to go use the quadratic formula, which is minus b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Why? Because this one works every single time. I don't have to worry about factoring or any of this stuff. So identify a, b, and c. A equals to 3, b equals negative 2, c equals to 9. Plug them into that. Minus and negative 2 plus or minus negative 2 squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2 times 3. That's a 2 plus or minus 4 minus 4 times 3, 12, 12 times 9. I'm getting tired. What's 12 times 9? 108 over 6. That's 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 104 over 6. Stop right here. This problem has no solution. Why? We can't take the square root of a negative number. No real solution. I don't have to continue, nothing. Let me try another one. Solve 5x squared plus 8x plus 10 equals to 0. Again, move to one side, it's done. A equals 5, B equals 8, C equals 10. X equals minus B. B is what? 8 plus or minus 8 squared minus 4 times A times C, which is 10, divided by 2 times 5. Might be no solution again. I like those. 8 times 8 is what? 64. And that's 200 over 10. $136 with a negative, stop right there, over 10. Again, no real solution. Can't take the square root of a negative number. Maybe I'll take one that will work here. Uh, 19, I think. Solve for x. X squared minus 4x equals negative 3. Step number 1, move to one side. X squared minus 4x plus 3 is equal to 0. Identify A, B, and C. A is 1, B is negative 4, and C equals 3. X equals minus B plus or minus the square root B squared minus 4AC divided by 2A. Minus B is what? Negative 4 plus or minus the square root of B squared. Negative 4 squared minus 4 times A, which is 1, times C, which is 3, over 2 times 1. Plus or minus 16 minus 12 over 2, square root of 4 over 2. What is the square root of 4? That's a 2. So one solution is 4 minus 2 over 2. The other one, 4 plus 2 over 2. That's 2 over 2, which is a 1. That's 6 over 2, which is a 3. So we get 1 and 3. Couple more problems. If I give you y equals x squared minus 2x plus 3, can you tell me where the vertex is? What's the axis symmetry? Which way is it going to open? And let's graph it. Do all the stuff. I'll do it in one problem. Well, the fact the coefficient of x squared is positive, I know is going to open upward. I know that because that number is positive. But can we graph it? So the axis of symmetry at x equals minus b over 2a. Minus b is what? Negative 2. A is 2 times 1. That's 2 over 2, which is 1. So when you pick your points, you only have to pick like 3 points, x and y. We'll start with the 1, we'll do the 2, the 3, I can go to 4 if I want to, that's plenty. When x is 1, y is going to be 1 squared, that's a 1. 2 times 1, that's a 2. Plus the 3, which is what? 1 minus 2 plus 3. Is that a 2? So I'm going to write that as a point. That's what we did last time. That's 1 and 2. When x is 2, what's 2 squared? 4. 2 times 2, 4 plus 3, that's a 3. When x is 3, that's 9, minus 2 times 3, which is 6, plus 3, which is 6. I don't need any more, actually. I can do the 4, but I really don't need it. Remember, the axis of symmetry, x equals to 1. This is x equals to 1. It's symmetric along this line. 1 and 2. Right here. 2 and 3. Right here. 3 and 6. Right there. So the graph looks like this. We know it's symmetric with respect to this, so it's going to look like that. So you can see it opens upward. This is your vertex right here, which is 1, 2. That's where that peak point is. And that's the end of the review. I gotta go to my next class. Good luck.